Escape from Tarkov is more than just collecting loot and finding yourself some hardcore PvP. There is a story while your PMC is fighting for survival in this hostile, post-apocalyptic region that a surprising amount of players don't know about. This story is about to become a little more important, as Nikita, the lead developer at Battlestate Games, has hinted numerous times recently that a more story-driven quests and tasks are about to be added to the game. To get you up to speed on the story and lore of Tarkov, I'm going to fill you in on the details. Here we go. To truly understand the full story of Tarkov, you first need to know that the lore of this series is actually the result of 3 different game projects, all produced by Battlestate Games, that also have supporting content such as concept artwork and even books and novels. The 3 games are Contract Wars, Escape from Tarkov, and Russia 2028. Contract Wars was BSG's first successful game and set the scene for events and games to come later. While the game itself is light on lore, it did have a lot of backstory planned and conceptualized, but most of that was saved for later games. In reality, Russia 2028 is BSG's true vision of the story of Tarkov, and it's been rumored that Contract Wars and Escape from Tarkov are just stepping stones until they secure the funding and studio size required to make such an ambitious open-world game. But for now, just know that all of these game stories are intertwined. Let's get on to Tarkov itself. Tarkov City is the largest metropolitan center in the Norvinsk Special Economic Zone. The Norvinsk region was specifically created to be a sort of gateway to the west, linking Europe to Russia. Inside this zone, commercial enterprises and businesses were given favorable incentives to move their global headquarters to this region. The city of Tarkov, when compared to other Russian or European cities of the time, was extremely modern. It was a capitalist playground, which boasted near zero regulations and red tape that typically was the bane of most mega-corporations. The region quickly grew in size as it became home to more and more corporate honchos, financiers, lobbyists, and industrialists. One of those corporations was the TerraGroup Corporation, a name you'll need to remember. TerraGroup isn't just one company, but as the name implies, a group of similar corporate entities that are all working towards the same goal. Also included in the Terra Group are a number of shell companies and holding companies that are specifically designed to lead investigators towards dead ends in the event anyone tries to go sniffing around while following paper trails. Sometime between 2016 and 2028, Terra Group became involved in a series of political scandals that would eventually turn violent. While the main source of these scandals is still shrouded in mystery, what we do know is that Terra Group was actively paying off Russian and local government officials for old military hardware. What they needed this hardware for is still unknown, but at the same time they either became closely linked with the United Security or USEC company, or possibly absorbed them completely. We'll explain more about USEC a little later, but for now realize that they are essentially taking over all of the armed security for all Terra Group locations. Meanwhile, Terra Group has also been illegally acquiring real estate and structures all over the Tarkov and Norvinsk region and setting up laboratories for research and experimentation by one of the Terra Group subsidiaries, TerraGroup Labs. As Terra Group's footprint in the region continued to grow, so did interest in its illegal activities by the Russian government. Investigations were launched and quickly stifled by USEC, sometimes violently. As investigations went cold and bodies started to go missing, news from the Tarkov region finally fell on the ears of the United States government and the UN. With rumors of UN peacekeepers soon being deployed, Russian investigators and special forces began plans to withdraw from the region, and a mysterious new PMC group reared their heads for the first time, the Battle Encounter Assault Regiment, or BEAR. While the Russian government denies the existence of BEAR, it has been rumored that not only does the Kremlin know about BEAR, but they specifically designed and directed the formation of the clandestine group, and it is comprised of both active and former Spetsnaz soldiers. BEAR's objective was simple. While acting as a sterilized, independent military force, get to the bottom of Terra Group's true plans and objectives in the Tarkov region, and find out why they've gone to such great lengths to protect their secrets and dealings. Soon after being deployed to the Tarkov region, they came under immediate hostile fire from USEC forces, and the Tarkov region exploded into violence. Within weeks of the fighting between BEAR and USEC starting, The Russian government sealed off the Tarkov region to prevent violence from spreading, but also to prevent more outside Western parties from deploying forces to the region. The risks were clear. If more UN peacekeepers were to be deployed, or worse yet, if actual uniformed troops from a NATO-allied country or even the US soldiers arrived, it could potentially result in open conflict between Russian and NATO armed forces that could quickly spiral out of control into full-blown conflict between nuclear powers. Not only that, but with increased Western attention, NATO forces could potentially get to the bottom of TerraGroup's activities before Bear did, and choose to destroy any evidence of TerraGroup's true intention. What resulted next was a nearly unprecedented blockade of a large region around Tarkov City that was enforced by the Russian military. And while no fly zone had been established in the region, supply drops and clandestine helicopter insertions would be observed by all sides and all times of day and night by unmarked craft. Soon after the evacuations were completed and the area sealed off, a curious event was observed by UN peacekeepers in the region. A rather large portion of the civilian population had elected to stay behind in Tarkov and attempt to thrive in the now truly lawless environment. These civilians were assumed to be everything from common street thugs to former members of the military and even former PMCs that become disenfranchised with the goals of their employers. These scoundrels, ruffians, and thugs quickly became affectionately known as scavs, or scavengers, and typically roamed the streets of Tarkov in small groups, sometimes just looking for food or supplies, but other times looking for trouble. With a power vacuum in Tarkov now in full effect, some of these scav groups started to organize around regional warlords as their nucleus. Through intimidation, outside connections, or sometimes just brute strength and ruthlessness, these warlords became the organizers and bosses of bands of scavs and built up a fearsome reputation in various sectors of Tarkov. You might know them as scav bosses, and they go by the names of Reshala, Killa, Glukar, and a few others. These warlords also served as intermediaries to the outside world, sourcing weapons, ammunition, and supplies for their followers, and soon, what was only a minor annoyance for the PMCs in the region evolved into a serious threat. As reliable sources for food, water, and electricity in the region diminished, these scavs became increasingly desperate, and their attacks on the relatively well-equipped PMC and UN forces increased both in frequency and ferocity. As the fighting within Tarkov reached its climax, an unknown Bear operative that eventually became separated from his unit discovered a critical piece of intelligence relating to TerraGroup's secret dealings. This operative discovered helmet cam footage of USEC operators at an unknown TerraGroup Labs location, liquidating evidence and also engaging in the mass killings of TerraGroup Labs employees. As word of this incident spread, some former USEC operators became disenfranchised with the goals of their employers, as well as feeling as if they had been abandoned to die in Tarkov. As these PMCs attempted to try to make their way out of the Tarkov region, they quickly realized that the border guards did not discriminate and that a shoot-on-sight order was given for anyone approaching any cordon area. In a surprising turn of events, faced with certain death, pockets of Bear and former USEC operatives have been sighted actually joining forces and sometimes even operating in small groups. It is assumed that their only goal at this point is survival and eventual escape from the Tarkov region. These lone PMCs aren't completely without allies, however. While some regional leaders have turned themselves into violent warlords, some of those still within Tarkov that have outside connections have realized there is profit to be made in the midst of all the calamity. These networks of connected individuals have allied themselves with the abandoned PMCs of the area as a sort of dealer network. In exchange for bounties, odd jobs, or favors, they source food, water, medical supplies, weapons, and ammunition. They typically go by pseudonyms to protect their identities, such as Ragman, Skier, Mechanic, and Fence. It would behoove oneself to keep themselves in good standing with these powerful individuals if they hope to gain an advantage over the competition. And now we've come full circle to where you and your PMC begin their journey in Tarkov. Tarkov has been sealed off now for quite some time. You've become separated from your faction, regardless if you've chosen Bear or USEC. Scavs are becoming increasingly well-equipped and adapted to the violent and lawless life in Tarkov, serving their respective regional warlords. The UN peacekeepers, first sent to Tarkov to broker a peaceful resolution between the warring factions, has exposed itself to being just as corrupt and easily manipulated as any other faction within the region, committing genocide on the local population, funding violence, and playing both sides when it stands to benefit them. And with a constant era of violent tension, factionalism, and fractiousness, fanatical scavengers have organized themselves into a sort of cult. Their goals and leadership are as enigmatic as the TerraGroup itself. Meanwhile, there are still secrets and evidence of TerraGroup's dealings to be discovered. Soon, routes to the heart of the city will open up, and your rogue PMCs will have new mysteries and dangers to explore. If you feel like you've only gotten part of the story, that's because you're right. The story of Tarkov is more complex than we realize, and it's only half written. As Escape from Tarkov continues to develop as a game, more of the story will become apparent. BSG has also done a great job of providing supporting content that gives us clues to the lore in the forms of novels and their phenomenal Raid live-action series. I don't know about you, but I'm very interested to see how the story of Tarkov evolves and eventually ends. But until then, let me know what you think of the story so far. Do you find it interesting? What do you think the TerraGroup has been doing with all these labs and military equipment? And do you think the violence within Tarkov will stay contained there, or will it burst out into the larger world? Maybe even with large-scale military conflicts. Whatever your thoughts are, leave them in the comments below. If you'd like me to do a video sharing some of my theories, let me know in the comments as well. If you'd like to see me stream Tarkov, go check me out on Twitch. I stream 5 days per week, and I'd love to have you stop by. A link is in the description. I always appreciate your feedback, so please leave me a thumbs up if you liked this video, or a thumbs down if you didn't. I'm Jeff with EUL Gaming. Good luck out there.